You know that coin you find everywhere, in your pockets, under your car seat, between the couch cushions? Well, believe it or not, after 232 years, the U.S. Mint has stopped making them. That's right, the penny is now officially a piece of American history. So let's just jump right into it. The United States Mint has officially hit the brakes on producing the 1-cent coin for general circulation. This really is the end of an era for what was probably America's most common little piece of currency.
And what an era it was. I mean, think about it. 232 years, the penny has been a constant in American life since it was first authorized way back in 1792. But now, that incredible run is over.
So how did it all go down? Well, on November 12, 2025, over at the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, officials held this whole ceremony to strike the nation's very last penny. You had workers on the factory floor just stopping to watch, and as those last shiny coins came out, the whole place just broke into applause.
Right after pushing the button to mint that final coin, the U.S. Treasurer Brandon Beach said this, and that quote, well, it tells you everything you need to know about the main reason for this historic decision. It all came down to money.
And that really brings us to the heart of the story, doesn't it? This wasn't some random decision made on a whim. Nope. This was all driven by some pretty cold, hard economic facts that have been piling up for years now.
I mean, you have to ask, right? Why on earth would the U.S. government put an end to such a long tradition? Well, it turns out, when you actually look at the numbers, the answer becomes pretty simple, actually.
Okay, so here's the whole problem in a nutshell. For every single 1-cent coin the U.S. Mint was making, it was spending almost 4 cents. That's right, 3.69 cents to be exact. And that cost has been going up for a decade, meaning we were literally losing money on every single penny we made. It just doesn't make sense.
So, what's the big payoff for stopping? Well, the U.S. Treasury figures that by just halting production, it's going to save taxpayers about $56 million every single year. And that's a whole lot of money for a coin that, let's be honest, most of us don't even bend over to pick up off the street anymore.
The final push really came in February of 2025. President Donald Trump announced the plan, calling the production wasteful and telling the Treasury to stop making new pennies. And just 9 months later, that was it. The mints went silent.
But you know, ending the penny isn't just about saving money. It also means we've kind of lost a little piece of American history. So let's take a quick look at the incredible story this tiny coin tells about our past.
You could say the penny's journey is America's journey. It all started with the Coinage Act of 1792. It became truly iconic in 1909 when Abraham Lincoln's profile first appeared. It even adapted during World War II. They made them out of steel to save copper for the war effort, and now its story comes to a close in 2025.
And there are some really cool details you might not know. Like, the very first penny didn't have a president on it at all. It had this symbol of liberty with flowing hair. It was also way bigger and made of pure copper. And you know that little P mint mark you saw in 2017? That was a special one-time thing to celebrate the mint's 225th anniversary.
You know, historian Frank Holt put it perfectly. He said coins are so much more than just money. They're like little historical records. They tell us who we were, what we cared about as a country, and the penny, in its own small way, was a huge part of that story.
All right, so production is over. What does this actually mean for you, for me, for the change in our wallets? This is the practical side of the whole thing.
First things first, don't panic. There is absolutely no penny shortage. In fact, it's the total opposite. There are an estimated 300 billion pennies already out there, in piggy banks, in junk drawers, in circulation. That is more than enough to go around.
So let's just break this down nice and simple. What's changing? The Mint just won't be making any new pennies for everyday use. That's it. What's staying the same? Pretty much everything else. All the pennies you have are still real money. They're still legal tender, and stores can absolutely still price things at, $9.99.
So here's the bottom line for all those pennies you've got stashed away. Yes, you can still spend them at the store. Yes, you can still take them to the bank and deposit them. And these things are built to last. Each coin can stay in circulation for about 30 years. Oh, and for all you collectors out there, don't worry, the Mint will still make special limited editions.
And all of this brings us to one final, pretty interesting thought. We got rid of the penny because it cost 3.69 cents to make a 1-cent coin.
But here's a wild fact. Right now, it costs the US Mint almost 14 cents to produce a 5-cent nickel. So if we're really following that same economic logic, you kind of have to wonder, what coin is next?